welcome back to the People in Progress podcast. I am Elsa Moira, your host. Today we are talking about how meal planning can change your life. So we're going to get into how to meal plan, how it will improve your life, and among other things, we're going to talk about some recipes I've been loving as well, particularly for summer. And then also let's get into the segments for today's episode. So first of all, what has been progressing my life? In the same vein as this episode, I want to talk about my inspiration to cook. I think going to farmers markets has been so inspiring, and just like the summer weather and really leaning into seasonal produce, I have been feeling much more inspired and much more excited to cook. And I always love when I'm in an excited to cook phase in my life. It makes me feel so happy, and I just love structuring my days around cooking, or at least including fun meals in my days and trying out new recipes and stuff. So yeah, I feel like being inspired about cooking, being excited to cook has been doing really well in my life at the minute. And what is holding me back? It kind of goes hand in hand with cooking, but cleaning. After I have a great day cooking, I then sadly have to clean the kitchen. And just in terms of getting on top of a cleaning schedule in general, we are living in probably the biggest house I've lived in alone. I've only lived in apartments before. So living in a townhouse, I now have a lot more surface areas to clean. And I just need to get into a routine of cleaning stuff and I'll feel so much better. But right now, I'm kind of hesitant because I'm about to go traveling. And I kind of feel like that's holding me back just a tiny bit. Life updates at the minute. What's been going on? I've been really into watching Drive to Survive, which I feel like everyone is. It's so popular and it's on Netflix. I'm on season 3 at the minute, and I like sports. I have played a couple sports and I enjoy watching sports, but I've never really got into any. However, and this might be so, I don't know, I feel like everyone says this, I've watched Drive to Survive and now I am into F1. I've been watching the Grand Prix. I really enjoyed the Canadian Grand Prix the other day. That was so much fun to watch, especially because we're in Canada and like it was raining on the track and then it was raining where we are because we're not too far from Montreal. And yeah, I've been really liking watching Drive to Survive. If you haven't watched it already, even if you're not into F1 or think you have no interest, it is just so interesting and they get into so many cool things. And a current read that I'm enjoying is Shatter Me. I read this pretty recently, and I actually read the series when I was, how old was I? Maybe like 12, and I read the first 3 books. Later, Tahira Murphy, who's the author, went back and added 3 more books to the series. And also when I first read it when I was younger, I didn't read the novellas for some reason. I guess I just didn't know they existed. And I have been loving this series. I think all the books so far I've read have been a 4 or 5 stars, and it is just so good. It's a dystopian romance, kind of fantasy as well, because the characters have like powers. It's very like superhero dystopia. It's so good. Highly recommend it. And it really blew up on Book Talk, and it is well deserving of the hype. Why should you plan your meals? Let's get into that first of all. It will save you so much stress. I know when I'm hungry, the last thing I want to do is make a decision on what I'm going to eat and making a decision on something I'm actually going to enjoy. So I think planning your meals out really saves you the decision paralysis. It stops you trying to make all these decisions when you're feeling hangry. And I also find it is nice because you can look forward to your meals, which saves me a lot of stress because I actually know what I'm going to eat. And yeah, just the amount of stress it saves. And also when you're hungry, when you're cooking, then you don't have to worry about the outcome, worry about sort of what you're doing. You know what you're doing is going to taste good because you've already planned it out in advance, and do any recipe stuff beforehand, like marinate something or prep something. You've already planned all of it out, so you're not stressed. You can also be more efficient with your groceries. It saves a lot of time, money, and effort, I would say. Money, let's start with that, because I find meal planning coincides really well with online grocery orders, which always save me, I want to say, literally hundreds of dollars. There is something about not going to the grocery store and seeing the numbers and being able to compare everything on one screen that saves me so much money. If you're in a place where you can get grocery delivery, I highly recommend it. You know, going to the grocery store takes so much time, and so getting a delivery, although you might have to pay, I think my delivery fee is about $8. I think it's so worth it for the time I save not going to the grocery store. And although you can do this if you're not meal planning, I find they fit together really well in terms of being able to order exactly the groceries you need for the meals you're having, which ties perfectly into the next point, which is food waste. If you plan out your meals, you aren't going to waste as much food. I'm going to talk about this later in terms of how I meal plan, but if you can see in your meal plan that you are opening up, say, a can of tomatoes, but in that recipe you're only using half of it, and the next day maybe you want to plan in a recipe where you use the other half, and you're not throwing things out. And you can also, I won't go over it now because I am going to go over it later, but there are a lot of food waste saving techniques. And there's also intentionality, which I love. That's such a key word for the People in Progress podcast. But I'm sure you have a ton of recipes that you have saved. I feel like we all do. And if you make the time to plan out your food and plan out your recipes, you're also going to make the time to make these fun recipes for yourself and be intentional with what you're eating in terms of enjoying the food that you're eating. This personally makes me enjoy cooking so much more, and a perfect intentionality thing with this is if you want to make pizza with your partner, for example. So I always love to make pizza with Jake, or just other fun cooking projects we do together. Both of us love cooking. If you're planning out and you're being intentional with it, cooking at home can actually be a date night. If you schedule that in for a Friday night, maybe you buy all the ingredients, you know what you're going to make, there's no stress involved, buy some wine to go with it, you can just make a regular meal a date night, which is so fun. So that's another reason you should meal plan. Now this is how to get inspiration for your meal plan, and one of the ways you can do this is looking on social media, saving stuff when you see it. So on TikTok, Instagram, particularly not just saving stuff but adding it to a saved folder. This is really useful. And also I love looking at what's in season. There's a bunch of websites that tell you what's in season. Also just going to the farmers market if the farmers market is happening, so like spring, summer and a bit of autumn. You can see exactly what's in season and what's local to you to inspire your cooking. Then a really good thing to do, a little exercise, is if you're starting meal planning, is to make a little journal page and write down the meals you're enjoying, what you're having for dinner, rate them out of 10. Don't write down meals you're not enjoying, obviously, because we're going to use this later, but then you'll have a logbook of inspiration of meals you actually really enjoy. So how do I meal plan? I personally meal plan lunches and dinners. I don't plan breakfasts. Those are more intuitive, and also sometimes I like to prep those and have the same one just all week. And again, I often have a couple breakfasty things in the fridge and I just have them whenever I feel like. But lunches and dinners are what I plan. So that is, 7 meals, so 14 meals a week I plan. I also mainly at the minute, with Jake working 9 to 5 in an office/hybrid, I like to plan mainly the weekdays and then be a bit more intuitive on the weekends. If you can hear any scratching, that is my cat down there. They're desperate to get into this closet now that I'm filming in this room. Also, I have my camera flashing that it's low on charge, and I'm going to see if I can get through this episode without recharging it, because that would be lush if I didn't have to recharge it. Anyway, in terms of inspiration, I look at my Pinterest saved and my TikTok saved, and I go through those recipes and just write them down, sort of brainstorm. And I also look at what's in my fridge, what's going to go out of date, what I need to use up, and also just what I have. Then I write out a list of 5 lunches and 5 dinners. I go through those lists and mix and match them. And by that I mean, if I'm planning on having a rice sort of stir fry for dinner one day, and then I want to do a burrito bowl with rice another day, I will maybe do that for dinner on Monday, and then the burrito bowl for dinner on Tuesday. For lunch on Tuesday. You could do it for dinner. Rice lasts a couple days in the fridge. But what I'm saying is, if I'm making something, I see where I can make extra and save time for myself later in the week, save effort. I see days where I'm busy and where I can sort of make leftovers, overlap things, and all of that. I said earlier, I also take note of when I'm opening things, or the dates things go out of date, and when things need to be used up. If I open something, how many days do I have to use it up? And another little hack is to look at the weather. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely crave different things when it's hot and sunny out and when it's cold out or rainy. So I like to look at the weather and try plan out fun things to do with the weather. So if it's really sunny, maybe I'll do like a barbecue or burgers, that kind of thing. Another hack for meal planning is to get ChatGPT to write you a meal plan. So the way you can do this is to remember that log of meals we wrote down earlier, feed that into ChatGPT, and then ask it to make you a meal plan. And I was actually talking to Jake about this, and he pointed out you technically only need 1 weekly meal plan ever, and you can just repeat that. Have Taco Tuesday every Tuesday, Wing Wednesday, I don't know the rest of it, but maybe you have the same dinners on every weeknight. And if you're really into a consistent routine, that might work really well for you. For me, not so well. But, you know, you could have maybe 3 weekly meal plans that you rotate between, do 4 and just have a monthly meal plan almost. And maybe you're a bit more intuitive with lunches. Obviously, leave space for yourself. Don't be too harsh on yourself if you want to go out or have lunch or delivery. But yeah, you technically only need 1 meal plan. Something you can also do with ChatGPT is list off all the ingredients in your fridge, tell it some meals you like, and it can make you a meal plan. It's also really good if you have any dietary requirements, you can tell it that and it will use that to make you a meal plan. I just want to touch on this as well because I think this is a bit of a unique thing, but also I say unique in terms of I don't hear many people talk about it, but I think it is quite a common situation. I don't eat meat, I'm vegetarian, but Jake does eat meat and he's quite open to like a lot of cuisines. He's really into cooking, but he does eat meat. So when we meal plan, we like to incorporate meat and veggie options. So I just want to talk a bit about how we do that quickly. And if this isn't relevant to you, it shouldn't be too long, so don't worry, before we get into my favorite meals. So you can still plan things and you can still eat the same meals as someone else you live with if you have different dietary requirements. And again, this is relevant with a lot of things, but particularly it works with vegetarianism or veganism, that kind of thing. So one good way to do this is look at naturally vegetarian foods, so like pizza, pasta, fried rice, that kind of thing. Meals that you both enjoy that maybe aren't like a vegetarian version but just happen to be vegetarian is really good and is a great way to start. The other thing you can do is find meals where their base is vegetarian or is a neutral base. So like a noodle stir fry, fajitas, or a roast where you might add meat on at the end. Anything like that where the base is like vegetables and carbs and, you know, things that you can both eat and then you can add on your protein at the end. And talking about proteins, meat substitutes are great if you want to be eating the same meal as the person you're eating with. It doesn't have to be a branded thing. You can just make tofu that tastes like chicken, or soy curls are really good, seitan. There's a bunch of kind of things. I really have been into mushrooms lately, but that way you feel included because you're eating the same thing as the person you're eating with. And a little special mention for sort of construct yourself meals like tacos or fajitas. So remember when I said my camera was on low battery, but I was totally going to finish the podcast before it ran out? It ran out. And so I've just been on TikTok for like the past half an hour waiting for my camera to charge, because this is a video and audio podcast. The video is on Spotify and YouTube if you are watching on there, hey. But I couldn't keep going with just my mic because I am recording video as well. We were talking about barbecues and we were talking about things which you put together yourself for vegetarian meals. All I'm saying is it's really easy if it's sort of a self-construct thing with common elements, because it makes cooking really easy if people have different dietary requirements. At least I found with Jake, my boyfriend, by the way, is called Jake. And yeah, I found that's really easy. I'm going to tell you 5 of my favorite meals at the minute for summer 2023. Some things I've really been enjoying. I did 5 because that's a perfect like weekday meal plan if you want to try out some new dinners. If you want to know any more information about them, just send me a DM on the People in Progress Instagram or comment on the YouTube video. Number 1, I have, it's sort of like a creamy vegan orzo, mainly like a Mediterranean olive oil style orzo with Beyond meatballs and like really herby meatballs. This is sort of my interpretation of a recipe from Eat Figs Not Pigs, who is like a vegan content creator on TikTok, and she has a blog. Really good recipe. I really liked it. When I first saw it, I actually saved it because I save a lot of recipes that aren't vegetarian and then I just interpret them in my own way. I actually saved this one thinking it was meat because I don't know what meat looks like. I've been vegetarian for a while, and then when I pressed on it to make it, I realized it's actually entirely vegan, and she was using oat milk and she was using Beyond, and it's a really good recipe. If you guys want the link, just let me know. Maybe I'll put it on stories on the Instagram. Then also hummus flatbread, another TikTok recipe. It's basically just using like Arabic bread. I don't know what the proper name for Arabic bread is. That's just what I call it. You can get it at Costco or like any supermarket. Kind of like a pita, but like thinner and stretchier than a pita. Pretty sure it's commonly known as Arabic bread, but I like to use that as a pizza base. I do that a lot when I'm making pizzas at home, even if I'm doing like Italian pizza. But this one, use hummus instead of tomato as the base, and then I like to put a bunch of Mediterranean kind of veggies on there, tomatoes, olives. I haven't done it with artichokes, but the original recipe I saw did it with artichokes and that looks so good. But what else? Onions, bell peppers, and yeah, just let it cook. and add some mozzarella on top, and it tastes so good, and it's kind of like halfway between a Mediterranean flatbread and a pizza. Also, rosé orzo. I posted about this on my TikTok before and people really liked it, but it's basically like a rosé sauce pasta but with orzo. So what I do is I fry off some onions and then I toast the orzo in the pan, just keep adding veggie stock until the orzo's cooked, add in some like tomato paste, some cream, and then I love to add chili oil on top. But yeah, rosé orzo, amazing, and it's definitely a hit with Jake as well. Also, oyster mushroom duck pancakes. I actually did a whole TikTok recipe of this. I saw a couple recipes making a similar thing, but this is my interpretation, and a lot of them were fried oyster mushrooms. I do mine baked, and I think it tastes just as good. Like, I haven't even tried it fried, and it's so easy. I'm not doing baking because of calories or anything like that. I'm doing baking because frying is hard and it's a lot of effort and you have to watch things. I love this recipe because you tear up all the oyster mushrooms. Again, just look at my TikTok, it is on there. It's a good video. Wrap all the mushrooms, add some 5-spice, put them in the oven, and you can chill for 20 minutes. And then you mix them around, put them in for maybe another 10 minutes, add some hoisin sauce, and then you just buy the pancakes from the Asian grocery store and you have duck pancakes. And literally, I don't know how you could make easier duck pancakes. And in the UK, there was this vegan takeaway in Leeds called Warwin. If you know Warwin, shout out to you. It's such a niche topic, but it's a vegan Chinese takeaway in Leeds. I think they've expanded now to some other cities. It is incredible. My entire Leeds University experience is shaped by Warwin, but they did vegan duck pancakes and I haven't had them since I had a Warwin last. Yeah, I just learnt this recipe and it's so comforting. And also, it's comforting, but it's still summery. And then the last thing I want to say is burgers for summer. Love a good barbecue, but you don't have to have a barbecue to do burgers. Just something fun like that. I eat burgers all the time in summer. I love a bagel burger, one with tons of veg. I feel like it's very Aussie of me, but adding beetroot, pineapple, all that kind of stuff. Love that. And Beyond is my favourite alternative burger. They have just like a certain taste which I really, really enjoy. I mentioned my TikTok a couple times. I post food a lot of my vlogs on YouTube, but less so like recipes. I just talk about what I'm eating, but if I am posting any recipes, it's most likely to TikTok if you want to follow me there. I am Elsa Moira on TikTok, Elsa Moira on YouTube, and then Elsa Mitchell on Instagram, and then obviously this podcast Instagram is People in Progress Podcast on Instagram. If you did like this podcast and you got anything from this podcast, please do leave a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Follow the YouTube channel, which is just my YouTube channel, Elsa Moira, where we post a podcast. And yeah, follow the Instagram, everything to keep updated. But really, you don't have to do anything. Thank you so much for just watching. I'm glad you're here, and I will see you next Monday.